Alrighty. So if you're here, grab your coffee or wine, whichever time zone you're in, and let's get started. So, first of all, it'll be a great idea if I can actually have this banner removed. Hi guys, how you going? So, have you ever been in a place where you're trying your best to make other people happy? You're trying your best to have great relationships. You're working so hard to make people like you, but for some reason, it just doesn't work. No matter how much you do, you buy them presents, you spend all the time, you're always there for them. You're the first one to respond to any SOS or any really, situation, and you're always there for them. You're practically their ride or die. You're their wing person, but you always feel like you're not getting enough love back, you're not getting enough care back. And have you ever been in a situation where you're actually in a relationship, lovely relationship, and you're always asking your partner, but why do you like me? But you're so much better than me. But you're so much hotter than me. But you're so much successful than me. I'm not nothing. Why do you like me? And they say, well, I find you sexy. I find you attractive. I think you're amazing. And you still doubt that because a part of you is telling you that you're not good enough. You're not good enough for them. You're not good enough for that relationship. And you're always questioning that. You're always unhappy within. And have you been in a place, you have the money, you have the success, you have everything else in your life, but you can't seem to stop feeling as if something is lacking and you're sad, and the moment you're alone, you just don't know what to do with yourself. Most importantly, as long as you're within, you're with somebody around, you're always happy, cheerful, smiling, laughing. The moment everybody leaves, you're the saddest person around. And let's flip that. What about you're in a room full of people, but you just feel you're laughing, smiling, hanging out with them. You look like you're the life of the party, but deep inside, you feel lonely. Deep inside, you feel like, I don't belong here. Why does that happen? That has a lot to do with the relationship you have with yourself. And I'm going to be honest, I've been there. I exactly know the specific years where I became that person. I was literally talking to somebody recently from 2014 to at least 2018. I was that person. I wasn't happy. I was pretending to be happy. I was doing everything, but I wasn't happy. And one after another, my relationships failed. I did not understand, why do I keep breaking up with people? Why do I panic? Why do they panic? What are all that? And it all came down to one thing: I wasn't loving myself. I stopped loving who I was. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So if you're tuning in for the first time, this is Unleashed Leaders of Change, Season 6, Episode 3. And I'm Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO. I'm here because I care and because I give a damn. Today, I have a fantastic guest. And you know what? This is actually a first today. We started this around, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember. I know that this is season 6, but we started 4 or 5 years ago in one thing that I was not happy about, and that is part of relationship with me, that despite the fact that I wanted my LGBT community included, people were able to manipulate me to keep them out of my shows. And I'm talking about people I co-hosted with. And I was unhappy about that, but I wasn't talking. So this is a perfect way to introduce this guest, the first gay person, first LGBT person, first amazing person, and you'll see he's amazing in many ways. So without much further ado, this is Ted Smith. Hey Ted, how you going?
Good. How are you, Sebastian? Great to
I
be
am
here.
excellent. Well, as I was talking, relationship, uh, we are unhappy with ourselves and we're trying to make everybody else happy. You are actually an example of today how happy I am with myself, because for 5 seasons, I did not let an LGBT person come on my show, not because I didn't want it, but because I was doing what others wanted. So,
Yeah,
this is perfect episode for that, perfect topic for that.
right.
So,
I love
Ted,
it.
people who are watching you for the first time on Intentional Network, tell them a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Who is Ted Smith?
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name is Ted Smith. I am based in the United States. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. I am a relationship coach and a best-selling author. I've got my book here, Healthy Me, Happy We, Transforming Relationships with Yourself and Others. I've been on a healing journey for a few years, and I've found such an importance in the relationship with yourself, which is why we're here today. And it really has transformed my life. And I love helping people transform the relationships they have with other people, and more importantly, they have with themselves. It's great to be here.
Love that. And let's actually begin with your book. I was going to do something else, but I love the color of your book. I love everything. Can you please hold that up again? Because I absolutely love that book. Is, no fancy frills, but I love the topic. Healthy me, happy we. And I think we made a mistake in promoting that as well. So I wish you had pointed that out. So guys, Healthy Me, Happy We. Tell us what the book is about, why it's about me and we. How does me affect the we?
Yeah, so the book documents my personal experience with a 15-year abusive relationship with an alcoholic narcissist, and goes into what I experienced during that time, and how I essentially created that relationship for myself because of the unhealthy relationship I had with me. It goes through kind of what codependency is, what addiction is, what abuse is, what it looks like, what it feels like, and also documents my healing journey since being out of that relationship, and what you can do to create healthy, happy relationships with yourself as well as with other people. And
Love
this
that.
is Peachy.
I was going to say, would you mind introducing our special guest as well?
This is Peachy. He tends to show up on every Zoom call, every coaching call I have with my clients, and every video.
I love it because he is also in the promotion video. So I love it.
Yeah.
That, there's a lot of firsts with this episode. We've never had an actual pet. I am very pet friendly right now. Two of them are sitting down here in my feed, but I've never had an opportunity to have a pet live. So there you go. This is a premiere for many reasons. Okay. So, and that makes a lot of sense. As I was saying in the prologue as well, that, for nearly 5 to 6 years, I was unhappy with myself, even though I pretended to be. Nobody guessed that I was unhappy. Everybody saw me as the same person they've ever seen, but I wasn't. And one of the examples I gave was, I didn't do something that I wanted to do. I did not bring an LGBT community, which is the very reason really I started these shows. But I practically dropped my own goal because of trying to make others happy. So here's the question that comes. Why is it that we fall for people-pleasing patterns? What creates those patterns in us? As you are a relationship coach. I'm sure lots of people come and say, as one of the example I was getting is, they doubt, like, why am I in a relationship with this person who is so much better than me? They automatically reject themselves. Why does that happen? Why do we reject ourselves even though we have actually got the successful relationship we always wanted?
Yeah, so the people pleasing, really, it probably comes from past experiences like childhood traumas or other experiences in the past leading up to that moment where the person develops a sense of feeling like the only way that they're going to receive love and to get love and attention from another human being is if they go out of their way to please that person. So whether it's, doing chores and tasks or favors and things for other people, or if it's like going out of your way to please people at the sacrifice of your own needs and your own desires, that's really how it kind of manifests. And ultimately where that comes from is a lack of self-love, a lack of self-worth, a lack of valuing your own needs and desires. There's nothing wrong with helping other people and being there for other people, unless it's coming from a place of sacrificing your own needs and desires.
Absolutely. And how do we actually identify that I am not loving myself enough? Because, when we're in that state, when we're pleasing, when everything else, especially as I was saying, when you have the wealth, you have the success, you have the fame, you have a relationship going on, everything seems to be perfect. how does one even recognize that, hey, but you don't have a good relationship with yourself? That's why you're unhappy. What are some of the signs that can help them identify where is the unhappiness coming from?
Yeah. So, for example, when it comes to people pleasing, I like to say it's not the thing, it's the energy behind it. So, buying flowers for someone, for example, it could be coming from a people pleasing energy or it may not. It's about tuning into like where your intention is coming from. Are you buying those flowers because you want that person to like you? Or are you buying those flowers because you thought it was nice and it might be something that might brighten their day? That sort of thing. Like that's just an example, but it's like tuning into your intentions, what's underneath the reasons you're doing something or not doing something, as to whether it's a clue of a potential challenge in your relationship with yourself.
Right. So now people might actually misunderstand. Well, of course, I want to tell other people I like them. I'm buying flowers for them because I want them to like me. Especially in romantic relationship, because you're trying to court them. How is that different from, or recognize that? Well, am I really doing this just to please somebody, or am I really into them and I just want to sort of, because it's a fine line. How do you recognize? Well, that's what's happening. I'm just trying to please somebody who's not into me. Is there a way for us to sort of have a self check, or how do we dive into that to make sure, well, you know what, this is not going to work, or I'm just trying to please somebody I might not already be into?
Yeah.
Sometimes we just fall for the idea of a perfect man, but it's not really who it is, and we're just trying to chase something that we actually don't want, but because everybody says that's the perfect thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like chasing, for example, if you're going after someone who's not reciprocating love and attention to you, like that can be a place of sacrificing yourself or feeling less than. Like you need to chase after someone in order to feel to get that love and attention. So again, it's about like tuning into why you're doing something. And if it's coming from a place of pure love and enjoyment and just wanting that person to be happy, that's great. But if you're looking at it from that place of, I want this person to like me, so therefore I'm going to do these things, that I think is going to raise a red flag for you. Because it's not about being attached to how that person reacts to what you do and say. It's about doing it because you feel good, you feel right about it, and that sort of thing.
Right. So let's dive a little bit into your own journey.
Okay.
You have been through a little bit of, because this book didn't come out of itself. Things happened, life
Yeah.
happened, you experienced certain things. So let's go back into a little bit, little Ted, when you were a little child. What was your life like? And when do you think that life started where you started people pleasing? What led to that? If you can share a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that. So I had a really good childhood. I had loving parents and siblings as well. But I think most, if not all of us, have these defining moments in our childhood that really define us. And even when we have loving, supportive families, we have these moments that can help create these conclusions that we draw as little kids, when we don't have the tools and the practices and the knowledge that healthy adults have, that cause these kind of unhealthy behaviors and ways of thinking. So there were a couple defining moments for me where my response to the trauma that I experienced was to close off emotionally, and where I developed a sense of thinking that it wasn't safe for me to express my emotions. So one example was I was on a playground with two neighbor kids, and I fell off the slide. I broke my wrist, and I started crying because it was very painful. And the other kids just
Right.
laughed at me and made fun of me for crying. That in that moment, I, as a 5-year-old, developed a belief that it wasn't safe for me to express my emotions. And that is one ingredient to an unhealthy relationship with myself that, developed from then on.
But social construct also plays a big part in that, because we are told, especially for us LGBT people, we are told we are always on the watch to not look too feminine, to not look this way, to not
Hmm.
behave that way. And a lot of
Sure.
our behavior is manipulated into the heteronormative society where we have to be masculine. You've got to, I'll say this. I still don't say, hey, buddy, hey, champ, all that. It's just not natural to me. But that's the culture we're forced into. So, as you're saying, you were crying and then you stopped because you felt, it's a not safe thing to do. But that's because social construct plays a big part in that, right?
Absolutely. Yep, for sure.
So social construct also practically, that's what we are raised with. Let's talk about, without getting too political, but, the religion we should follow, the ideology we should follow, the kind of things we should say, not say, all that happens. And that creates from little Ted to big Ted. For all of us, we start as a child as somebody else, but we become somebody else. In your journey, when you started having relationships, at what point did you realize, well, I'm not in a happy relationship, I'm not happy with myself, I am not, I'm dealing with something, or I'm accepting something which is less than what I deserve? When did you realize that?
Yeah, it took me a long time. It took me 15 years. I was with an alcoholic and a narcissist, and I didn't realize either of those things. I knew I didn't like how he treated me. I knew I didn't like how much he drank and how much it affected his health and in our relationship. But I was in so much denial about how unhappy I was that I didn't realize really any of that until things came to a very dramatic point where he ended up in the hospital. And I finally hit a rock bottom of realizing, oh my God, my life is insane and I can't deal with this anymore. And I finally started to get help. I started seeing a therapist and going to 12-step meetings, and finally started to get some help. And through that journey, I began to see like what I had been tolerating for so long, and learn just the very basic fundamentals of having a healthy relationship with myself, when before that was such a foreign concept to me. Like the idea of putting my own needs first before other people was something I had never thought of, because to your point about social construct, like a lot of us are taught to put the needs of other people before us, that
Right.
otherwise it's selfish. But what I've
Right.
learned is that there's a very big difference between being selfish versus being self-loving. And in fact, when you are loving yourself and taking care of your own needs first, you're actually giving everyone around you exactly what they need as well.
Exactly. I love that, because that's the biggest social construct that, gets people in a lot of negative mindset, because they're always questioning, what am I doing? Is it selfish? Am I just only
Mm,
caring? Somehow it is presented to us as, if you put yourself first, you're a narcissist. And the real narcissist gets away with that, because
right.
people don't learn to differentiate between self-love and narcissism. They don't understand the fine line and the boundaries and all that. I want to take a couple of comments before we go further. uh, August here says that happens a lot. We try to ignore their bad side because we're in love and we don't want to lose them. That's a great point. We don't want to lose them. So, in isn't that the same insecurity, because there's something about us that we are not happy with? Why don't we
Yeah, and
want to lose?
there's two kind of sides of that, and I actually experienced both in my relationship. So the first few years of the relationship I experienced with my ex, it very much was coming from that energy of, I felt like I needed him. I didn't think I could live without him. I didn't want to lose him, and so I would try to cater to his needs, his desires, try to not make him mad, that sort of thing. And then some events happened like 4 or 5 years into our relationship where the energy flipped, and there was a power shift, which don't I mean we could have a whole other conversation on power dynamics and relationships and whether that's healthy or not. But it shifted to where it became where he couldn't live without me versus the opposite.
Right.
And at that point it shifted to a place of like, I didn't want to leave him because I wasn't sure how he was going to survive and be on his own. I was staying out of a place of obligation and fear versus because I really wanted to be with him.
Because that also kind of morphs into a codependent relationship now. Because
Absolutely.
You don't realize what you, even when you're ready, but you kind of, it's like you kind of know, okay, I want to fire this employee, or I don't want to be friend with this person, or I don't want to be in relationship. But oh, what will happen if I leave? How will they? So there's this unspoken need for us to protect them as well, and we
Yeah.
kind of stay in a cycle that we're trying to get out of. And August is actually agreeing that, yes, we're told we are selfish for putting ourselves first. That is so common. Almost everybody I know would say, well, I used to think that I'm selfish for putting myself up. And High Tech Mother says, great conversation, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Please let us know where you're tuning in from so we can, say hi to your countries and locations. All right. So let's talk about when you moved on, when you found the clarity that, okay, I'm not in a healthy relationship with myself, I need to change things. What made you realize that, and how did you make the shift to being the Ted Smith that you are today?
Yeah, so like I said, starting therapy and 12-step, I really learned the basics and the fundamentals of developing and cultivating that healthy relationship with myself. And I was in that relationship for 15 years, but it was actually the last 3 months that I started a healing journey. And it only took a little bit of time for me to realize that, once I started building a little bit of self-love, I realized that what I had been tolerating for so long was something I was no longer going to tolerate. And so I left him, I left my ex-husband, and, went out on my own and kept kind of leveling up my relationship with myself, to a place where now I'm happier than I would have ever dreamed being possible. So
That's awesome. Now, we do have a curious question here. So, High Tech Mother is saying, what is this 12 steps? For anybody who's outside America, they might not know it. So, do you
okay,
want to
gotcha.
give a little bit of that so that they understand what we're talking about?
Yeah, and I forget the equivalent in Australia, but in the US, it's Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, which is what I was a part of. It's for those who are in relationships with alcoholics. Codependence Anonymous, those anonymous programs that people meet in as a group. It's a group support system to help people with their issues with codependency and things like that.
Right. So, as you're doing the 12 steps program, and of course, you're realizing a lot more about yourself and you're realizing what you need to do, was it easy to sort of move away? I mean, breakups are never easy, but
Yeah.
that shift, how did you handle that shift? And uh, again, it's the same thing. At that point, did you question, am I being selfish by walking away? Am I being harmful to the other person, somebody who's been
Yeah.
by her husband for a long time? How do you cope with those kind of emotions? Same thing, in trying to be healthy and happy. How did you get there?
Yeah, it was definitely challenging, because I had to unravel my own beliefs and attachments that, that he couldn't survive without me, that his life was going to be in shambles without me, and let go of the guilt that I felt and the responsibility that I felt for him, all of which is very codependent. And it's like for a while there, I had a disconnect between my mind and my heart, because my mind knew logically like that those things weren't true, but my body was resisting it because I had been in that relationship for so long and developed a relationship that was so unhealthy, and that's just all I knew. So yeah, it was difficult to come to grips with that, but at the end of the day, on the other side, it was easy in the sense that it was, I was learning to trust myself more and more, and I knew that an opposite, the different direction was going to be the right choice for me, and so that's ultimately the path that I chose.
Perfect. I do have a couple of more comments. August is just saying he's from Melbourne, Australia. And High Tech Mother just said thank you for explaining what that is, 12 steps. And she's tuning in from India. So we do have people from all over the world.
Great.
Now, as you were writing the book, okay, actually, let me change my question. Did you write the book first, or did you become the relationship coach first? What came first?
It was a mix of both, but the book really kind of launched my business, my coaching business. So the book came first. I published that. back in 2021, and then I've been coaching ever since. So yeah.
Awesome. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit about the process of you writing the book, because it's not an easy process, to open yourself up to people. No matter how open a person you are, you're actually sharing a lot of your private life. So how was that process for you? And how did you come about with the topic, with the title, Healthy Me, Happy We, which I
Yeah.
apologize, we promoted wrong.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, funnily enough, I actually had a conversation with a psychic, and he was tuning into my spirit guides, and the message he got for me was that I was going to be writing a book that was about my relationship, and it's going to help people in their relationships. So that's what sparked the initial idea. And then a couple of months later, I was kind of toying with the idea. I wasn't sure what I was going to write about, how I was going to write it. And a coach that I was working with connected me with an author coach, who then I met with, and ended up joining a group coaching program for authors. And within a few months, had a first draft of a manuscript. So it came together really quickly. I know that for a lot of authors, it's hard for them to get all their ideas down and organized in a way that it flows and all that. But this exercise was kind of an accelerated program for me to get it all out there. And I had my book published within a year of having that conversation with a psychic. So it all happened very quickly, which is honestly a mirror of my entire healing journey. Like, things have happened really quickly for me, and it's because I've prioritized that relationship with myself and putting myself first.
It must have been a healing process for you as well, while writing and
Yeah.
sharing and sort of getting it out there. And do you get people coming to you and sharing how they relate to the book and how it has helped them in their journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I made a decision early on in the process that I wasn't going to hold back in the book. I wasn't going to reserve any piece of my journey that I felt uncomfortable sharing, because I knew that it was going to help people down the road. I had already had some experiences leading up to writing the book where people had benefited from hearing about my experience. And so I really just wanted to put it all out there on the table. And I've gotten the good responses from people, and how it has changed their lives, and how it's helped improve their relationships with themselves and with their partners and with other people in their lives. What's interesting about it is, my story was a very extreme situation in terms of being with a narcissist and an alcoholic. And, my rock bottom experience was, I like to joke that it was like the makings of a blockbuster movie. It was very dramatic, but that's what I needed in order to wake up and to hit my rock bottom. So that's an extreme version, but there's people who have less extreme versions in their lives of relationship challenges, and they're able to relate to bits and pieces of it and learn from my story as well.
Right. I just saw a comment coming up. Hi, Jack Mother saying, where can I get the book? So let's put the book up again, just so that people can see it.
Yeah. So Healthy Me, Happy We, it's available on Amazon. I can't quite recall the shipping details outside of the US, but it is available in an audiobook format. So that's an option, an ebook as well. So that should be available outside of the US.
Perfect. So, well, anybody who wants to know, if it is on Amazon, you can, as long as Amazon is in your country, you will be able to get it. You can get the Audible version. You can get the book, paperback, hard copy, whatever you want. If you just go to Amazon in your local country, you should be able to find it. Okay. Now, talking about, you wrote the book and then you became the relationship coach. As a relationship coach, now you're kind of walking into a lot of similar stories and experiences with people. They're coming from, different backgrounds, different experiences. What's the toughest client or situation you've had to deal with so far, without giving away their details? What's the toughest thing you've had to deal with in terms of, their struggle or you trying to help them?
What comes to me in answer to that question is, I had a client situation where we started working together, and in my first session with him, it felt like I was talking to the Ted at the beginning of his healing journey, right after his rock bottom. there was a lot of my clients I work with have, a foundational concept of the importance of the relationship with themselves, and they've kind of learned a little bit about self-care and things like that. And for this client in particular, I felt like we were really starting at ground zero with, the basics of self-care, the basics of loving yourself and having a relationship with yourself, which is very much where I was. And so that was probably one of the most challenging experiences, but it was a joy to kind of work through that over the course of the weeks that we worked together, and really help him discover some fun things about himself and to learn what it was to take care of himself and build that relationship with himself from the ground up. So it was a very rewarding experience. Answered that question. Was that a challenge, or did it help them serve them better? Yeah, I mean, it was both. It was a challenge, and it helped me serve that individual better, because I knew exactly where he was at and what he was feeling. And it was tough for me to see so much pain and hurt in another human being, as well as like the resistance to changing that. Like as humans, we can have really extreme situations where we're so stuck in our own mess that even though we know it's not fun, it's not enjoyable for us, like our minds tend to create ways for us to stay stuck in that, because pushing out of the comfort zone is scary. It's scary to do something new and different and unknown. But ultimately there reaches a point where you decide enough is enough, and it's time to make some changes. And that happens at any cost, whether it's scary or not. There's a point at which the desire for change outweighs the fear and the desire to stay in a comfort zone.
Right, which brings to the question, when it's time to change, when the things are happening, and when that you've had enough, and especially when you realize, well, I haven't loved myself, I haven't put myself first. What are some of the tips or any pointers you can give to anybody who's starting out, who's just, it's like having a new life, you're getting born again? How do you cope with that shift? Because even though it is happening over time, but when you actually step out and you actually take action, it's daunting. How do you suggest people sort of manage that situation to make sure that they don't fall into old patterns and same kind of broken relationships again?
Yeah, the best advice I have is to find support in one way or another, whether it's on a free basis or a low cost basis. Group therapy, group programs, online communities, books, things like that. And if you have the ability to invest in yourself financially, to hire a guide, a therapist, a coach, etc., to help you down that path. Because trying to figure it out yourself it's gonna draw that experience out longer. It's gonna take you longer to get to where you want to be, and kind of stumbling around and going in circles, and to your point, possibly falling back into old patterns is definitely very possible when you're trying to do it alone.
Absolutely. Now, before we go further, I do have other questions, but do you also have a guided meditation that you're going to do for people today?
Yeah.
So if you're ready for that, should we set the stage and get it done?
Yeah, let's do it. I look forward to it.
All right. So guys, as Ted was telling me, there is no specific time. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 15 minutes. It really depends on the intuition. So Ted's just going to do that. I'm going to give him a couple of minutes to set up if he needs to do anything, and we'll get started. And for that, if you're hearing the background music, we'll first drop that. So bear with me for a moment as we get everything ready. Okay, there we go. How's that, Ted? All set?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right. So I'm just gonna really put you full screen. I'll be gone. You take the stage. You control everything. When you're done, just let me know, and I'll be back with you. So over to you.
All right. So I invite you If you're driving, pause the meditation, come back to this later. If you're in a place where you're able to get comfortable, close your eyes. I invite you to sit up straight with your feet on the floor and just get comfortable, get situated, get settled into your space. And I'll guide you through a little bit of a journey here. Um, I want you to take a deep, slow breath in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth slowly. And do that again, even more slowly, even deeper into your body. Breathing in. And let it out slowly. Taking the time to pause in this moment. Letting any thoughts that are coming into your mind just be there without attaching to them, without giving meaning to them, without focusing or giving them attention, just letting them be and letting them float by. Breathing in again slowly. And let it out. Noticing your feet making contact with the ground. Noticing your seat beneath you. Feeling supported, feeling grounded here in this moment. Focusing on the present with your eyes closed. Noticing any sounds that are happening in the room around you. Noticing the sound of my voice. Noticing any smells. And anything you're touching, in addition to the ground and the seat, maybe anything your hand is touching if it's in your lap. Just notice what's present, practicing presence. The now moment is all that's real, is all that you have any influence over. Our minds tend to dwell in the past, or to focus on or worry about the future. And while there's value in that, in learning from the past, planning for the future, when we spend too much time in the past or the future, it takes us out of the now. It takes us out of the present. The present moment is where you're able to feel the most joy, the most happiness, the most peace. And I bet that you're wanting to create more of those things in your life. Joy, peace, and happiness. For many, it's a challenge to find those, or once you find them, to keep them and maintain them. One of the most important lessons I've learned is coming back to the present moment as often as possible. And when you catch yourself catch your mind running away with its thoughts, to bring yourself back to the present. Take another deep, slow breath in and let it out. Just for a moment, practice presence here now in the silence without me guiding you. And just notice your thoughts, noticing any physical sensations that come up for you during this silence. Giving yourself this moment of being in the now, breathing deeply along the way. Just noticing how that is for you to sit in silence. Is it peaceful? Is it relaxing? Or is it stressful and uncomfortable? No need to judge one way or another what your answer is. Just noticing that gives you information for what might be good for you to do and for you to create for yourself going forward. Maybe a regular meditation practice is something you would benefit from. Maybe taking moments throughout your day to just breathe deep and focus on the present moment is something that would be good for you. Spending time in nature, connecting with the grass and the trees, the sounds of nature. Cultivating more presence in your life is what will help bring you more peace, more joy, more happiness, more connection with yourself, and ultimately a deeper connection with those around you. It all starts with you. If you find yourself struggling to connect with other people, what that points to is an opportunity for you to connect deeply with yourself. All of your relationships with other people are a direct reflection of your relationship with yourself. So if you find that you're lacking attention, lacking love, lacking connection, lacking trust with other people, that points to an opportunity for you to experience those and create those for yourself, to love yourself more, to trust and connect with yourself more. It all starts with you. Taking in another deep breath. And let it out. You are loved. You are appreciated. You are valued. You are beautiful. You are important. You are a gift to this world. I want you to breathe that in. Breathe in those truths about yourself. And if you feel hesitation or doubt or not believing what I'm saying about what you are and who you are, I want you to take some time to look at that for yourself. Look for ways to build that connection with you. Ask yourself, would you talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself in your own mind? And if the answer is no, you have an opportunity to cultivate a healthier, more loving relationship with yourself. It all starts with you. One more deep, slow breath in. And let it out. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, taking your time, giving yourself the space, time to slow down, coming back to the room, noticing again the ground beneath you, the seat beneath you, the sound of my voice. Taking one more deep breath. And let it out. And that concludes the meditation. Thank you.
All right. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let me just quickly see if we have any comments or anything. Bear with me. Okay, so we actually do. The first comment actually was, okay, doing this, I won't be commenting till we meditate. Well, that's good. That's how we want it. And okay, so High Tech Mother says this was very calming, but also very emotional for me. And that can be, meditation can be emotional at
Totally.
times.
Yep.
And I often experience that during my meditation and prayers. And Parker's saying, that was really nice. Thank you, Ted. For a moment, I felt angry, but then I saw purple color shapes and started feeling calmer. I love this. Oh, okay. Parker would love to know what was that about. So, that actually brings me to the question, Ted. Why is it that when we're meditating, for some people it's really calming, for some it aggravates them, it makes them uncomfortable? Why do we go through that sort of experience?
Yeah, I like to think of meditation as an opportunity. It's an example of what we can bring into our lives. So meditation, really the purpose of it is for you to practice presence, and that you can bring into your daily life, bringing yourself into the present moment when you're in a conversation with someone or when you're in the middle of doing some mundane tasks around the house. And it's important not to judge the thoughts and the emotions that come up during a meditation, just like it's important not to judge them when they come up, outside of a meditation. And meditation is going to be different for every person, and it's going to be different for you each time that you experience it and that you sit through it. So, the person that experiences anger in one meditation might experience joy in the next, or might experience just a complete, neutral place of peace in the next time. And for somebody else, it might be completely different. And in addition to practicing presence, it's an opportunity for you to connect with yourself. And as humans, there's a lot of emotions that we kind of push down and don't allow ourselves to feel. And so when we're allowing ourselves to be present, be in the moment, whether that's through meditation or breath work or just by, being still, a lot can come up, and some challenging emotions, some beautiful emotions, some really enjoyable emotions might come up, some uncomfortable stuff might come up too. And it's all beautiful. It's all part of the work.
It is taking you to a deeper self, really. It's connecting you there. So before we wrap up, I do want to ask people, how can people get in touch with you? But also, you have something that you're giving people free. So if you can tell how people can contact you for that, and what is it that you're gifting them?
Yeah, so my website is tedsmith.life. And probably the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. It's at tedsmith.life there as well. That would be the best way to connect with me. Just DM me podcast, and that way I know kind of where you're coming from, where you heard me. That would be great. And what I'm offering as a free copy, I put an 8-page PDF together, my ultimate guide to thriving relationships. And it gives you a taste of kind of what I do and what I'm all about in terms of cultivating a healthy relationship with yourself. And we can take it from there. I'd love to provide the free material. And if it's a good fit, I'd love to see if it's, something we could do to explore working together in a more deeper capacity.
Awesome. Love that. And we'll have all that information on Ted's page on Intentional Network as well. So guys, check that out. You'll find all the information, how to get in touch with Ted, his book, any other shows he's coming back to, and everything like that. So before we wrap up, Ted, I always ask this random question to all my guests. If you had right now $2 billion transferred into your account, I can't, just so you know, I can't. But when I can, I probably will. If you had $2 billion, but you had only one day to spend it on something, but it could not be on you. Now, I know we're talking about self-love and being selfish,
Right.
but you could not spend it on you or your people, and you had $2 billion. What change will you bring in this world using those $2 billion in 24 hours?
Oh, that's a great question. I believe so much in the work of cultivating a healthy relationship with yourself. I would probably donate it to organizations that really help cultivate that. And so that's kind of what's coming to me. And $2 billion would go a long way. So I would probably spread it across some different organizations and individuals who could really help make a difference. That would be where I would spend it.
Your accountant needs to get cracking then, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. Okay. Now, last question, really. Before you go, what's one message you have for people who are struggling with self-love or, not happy in relationships? Where can they begin just to start looking after themselves? Where can they become their best friends?
Yeah, I think it all starts with getting really honest with yourself. Like, just kind of, I lived in a place of denial and kind of not allowing myself to really accept the truth of my reality. And I think that's where it starts. And you can do that with some journaling or just, meditation, kind of sitting with yourself. And it might be really uncomfortable, but that I think is the foundation and the starting point for where you can go from there to decide, like, what is it that I really want? I think that's the best place to start.
Absolutely. And of course, they can get in touch with you to get more, guided journey for doing whatever they need to do for sort of identifying the problems and finding the solutions. Thank you so much, Ted, for your time. I wish we could go on, but we've got to wrap up. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
Absolutely. Now stay in the green room. I'll be with you in a second. All right, guys. So as Ted was saying, it all starts with, just starting to take care of yourself. You could start even by just journaling. And the biggest thing that's really personal and important to me is by being honest to yourself. One of the things I say is I have this little acronym CTCR, which is courage, truth, clarity, and resilience. That kind of is the same message, that you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to accept your own truth. And once you accept your truth, you find the courage, you have the clarity, and no matter what comes, you become resilient, and you fight that, and you start to be your own real self. And that's the entire message and service that Ted Smith is providing, how to be in love with yourself. And this is not about narcissism. This is about really how to love yourself, because one of the most important things is, unless you love yourself, how can you love somebody else? And how can anybody love you enough? Because you're never going to be happy. It's pretty much like first aid. If you are, if you're having a air crash or something, a plane crash, the first thing you want to do is put on the oxygen mask for yourself. Because if you're not okay, how the heck are you going to save anybody else, right? Well, that's it for me today. This was Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO, and I'm here because I care, because I give a damn. Until next, you take care. Remember to dream big and make it happen. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.